possibly hot Monday morning down in Kampala, and I hope you guys are doing well from wherever it is that you do watch this episode from. It's another live edition. I do appreciate all those that do join us, the few that join us on these live episodes, and those that watch them later after much later after we're done here. But anyways, welcome back to the Football Tribe UG channel. Robert Kesakos is your usual suspect. I hope you had a wonderful weekend. It was quite great, wonderful for me. But before I go any further, I want to say happy birthday to my man Kasuku. Kuku was a banger of Kasuku Live. I hope you do enjoy your day to the fullest. Anyways, some wonderful results from the weekend. That's in the Premier League. Some agonizing results for Arsenal fans. I do commiserate with you, given that 1-0 defeat against West Ham that you had to endure on Saturday on a very abysmal performance from the Gunners. Not that one we had expect. We had hoped for better results, but Arsenal will only have themselves to blame for letting themselves down. But today, our main topic is on Liverpool, who have moved 11 points clear on the Premier League summit following their 2-0 victory over Man City. It could have been 3, but Curtis Jones's goal was cancelled out by VAR for a possible offside. Anyways, 2-0 for Liverpool for Arne Slot as Liverpool beat Man City for the first time under the charges of Pep Guardiola at the Etihad Stadium. Yes, you had it right. For the first time, Liverpool have beaten Man City at the Etihad Stadium for as long as Pep Guardiola has been in charge. The best they have done is record what? About 3 draws, while they did suffer some heavy defeats, including a 5-0 at some point and a 4-1 on another turn. But yesterday, they made amends to that as they continue to push for the Premier League title. Mo Salah on the end of another goal scoring day or afternoon for him to extend his tally as the Premier League's top scorer, while Dominic Szoboszlai was the other on target for the Reds. Now, of course, in no spectacular fashion, but in what we come to know of Man City, at least over the course of this season, again, they just did not cut it. They couldn't get shots on target. Of course, I think they had only 2 shots on target, or something like that, especially in the first half. You could clearly tell that this was a blunt Man City, especially without their forward inbound Erling Haaland. They did struggle to convert chances. Of course, Omar Mamouche had scored, but then that one was equally ruled out, I think, for offside. So I think Omar Mamouche is a good player. Savinho continued to struggle. Phil Foden again was a no-show. Kevin De Bruyne struggled through the game. He wasn't at his best, and all that kind of thing. So overall, Man City were not at their best, as they have been almost all season. We've only seen flashes of them being brilliant in some games, like in their 6-0 victory over Ipswich Town. You could record that as, a brilliant performance, because they were bright on that day. But yesterday, they were not that. They were the shadow of the Man City that we've known over the years. Again, a Man City that does need a rebuild. I do remember in our preview on Saturday, I did promise that we will get to look at Man City's aging squad and all the players that we do expect that will leave the club in the summer as Manchester City prepare for that rebuild. But as far as yesterday goes, they were not sure, just as much as they have been in their loss to Arsenal, just as much as they have been in many other losses. Of course, this game came at the backdrop of Yester Sin. Welcome to the live broadcast. Of course, this result came on the back of, a double, loss to Real Madrid that saw them be knocked out of the UEFA Champions League before Madrid advanced there to the round of 16. And then, of course, losing to Liverpool for me in this particular case was no surprise, although I had hoped that maybe they could put up a fight and fight for something and, get a draw in this particular game. But that was not possible. So do let me know what your thoughts were on yesterday's game. Liverpool 2, Man City 0. as Liverpool moved 11 points to clear on the summit of the Premier League. Now, why is that so? Is because Arsenal, who were trying to put some bit of on Saturday by goal to nil, Gerard Boyd scoring that goal there that would have reduced the deficit in terms of points for Liverpool, between Liverpool and Arsenal. So very disappointing result, just like I stated in the preamble, that on Arsenal will only have themselves to blame for that particular kind of result that they did record yesterday on Saturday. And then, of course, for me, mathematically, it's not the end of the world. But I mean, if you're Liverpool with 11 points clear of a second place Arsenal, what reason, what excuse do you get or do you give for not going ahead to win the Premier League title? They put a couple of draws in recent times on board that you thought Arsenal should have leveraged on to, close that gap. Of course, they did share the scores in a 2-2 draw against their rivals in Everton at Goodison Park. We discussed that game extensively. Then in the course of the week, they did share the scores with Aston Villa in another 2-2 draw, which would have meant that those are 4 points dropped, and then in response, Arsenal should be, closing the gap by, winning their games and trying to keep this title race alive. But then, as far as we are concerned at this stage in the season, it's a one-man race, or it's a one-horse race as far as that Premier League title is concerned. But nonetheless, that wasn't the only game yesterday. There were other games on the day. There was another game on the day which did involve Newcastle beating up against Nottingham Forest by 4-3. Very, very brilliant game that you ought to have watched yesterday. But for me, very interesting again was Alexander Isak. I just love this guy. He just keeps scoring. When you look at his second goal that he scored, of course, the first that he did score was a penalty. Very brilliant take there. Joe Willock plays him. He runs onto that ball. He already knows where he's going to put that ball in the back of the net, because the goalkeeper has already made his commitment to try and come, that's Marcel's, to try and come and, stop that. But the distance between him and the goalkeeper is just enough for him to loop that ball over the goalkeeper to score a very brilliant goal that gave him his second on the day. Newcastle were just flawless in the first half, despite going a goal down in just after 6 minutes with Callum Hudson-Odoi putting Nottingham Forest in the lead. But then Lewis Miley did score to restore parity before Jacob Murphy tapped in that ball over the line to, make the difference, to put it to 2-1 at the time. And then, of course, they did concede a penalty, that's Nottingham Forest, and it was converted by Alexander Isak to take his tally to 18 before scoring the other to take his tally to 19. So he has 19 goals this season, just as many as about Erling Haaland, who was last season his top scorer. It is Mo Salah leading the pack in terms of, the goals tally there in the Premier League. But in the second half, Nottingham Forest tried to fight their way back to try and salvage the game, and they did get the second goal through Milenkovic, and then of course they had yet score late on, and they had hoped that maybe they would salvage a point, but the time just wasn't on their side to go ahead and put and get that, what would have been the equalizer on the day. So it ended 4-3 in favor of Newcastle. Remember, both teams are trying to push for, a finish in the top 4 to get the UEFA Champions League, football next season. So it's something that it's something that that we spoke about in the preview of this particular game briefly over the weekend, that it meant a lot for both sides at the time, and Newcastle came out on top. As far as top scorers go, Mo Salah has 25 goals to his name, and I do think if nothing changes, unless Bart Erling Haaland can come up with what he's shown us that he can do or is capable of doing, score 2 hat-tricks in 2 games, then clearly Mo Salah looks to be, leading the way with 6 goals ahead to go ahead and win this season is a Premier League put. Again, do let me know who you think will be the top scorer. At this stage in the season, I think he will win the Golden Boot if it remains fit to play, because he has no problem putting the ball in the back of the net. Liverpool, I do think, will go ahead to win the Premier League title. Not that the point deficit cannot be overturned by any team, but if there was a team that you could bank on to overturn such a point deficit, it would have been Man City. But then Man City are not in their best form this season. The reason as why I leave Arsenal out, not because they've not done it before. I think they've done it before. I think in the 98 season, when they overturned what was it, a 13-point deficit to go ahead and win that Premier League title with a tally of I think 78 points. So while they've done it before, I do not think that they are capable this season to go ahead and do it for 2 main reasons. Their squad depth is very lacking, and 2, they do not have a goal scorer. They do struggle to score goals. They do not have a striker. Yes, they will, they will sort of blow you away with a 5-1 victory over Man City, and then fizzle in the next game, and you wonder where they have dried up, because that's the nature of Arsenal. They do not have a striker. Some of their routine goal scorers are out through injury, in Kai Havertz, in Bukayo Saka, and then these other modest contributors, Gabriel Martinelli, are equally out, injured. Raheem Sterling cannot deliver. Mikel Merino, of course, you cannot put it on him because he's not a striker. He delivered the previous game. It needed another player to step up in the game against West Ham to deliver the goods, and nobody stepped up. You had hoped that the captain in Martin Odegaard would do that, but he fell short of those responsibilities. There is a moment, I think, was it in the first half or second half, where Leandro Trossard goes on a run. He is running into yards of space. Martin Odegaard is following and is in front of about 4 West Ham players that are trying to run back. Now, instead of running directly to give Trossard that option to play him that ball, he chooses to go in between the West Ham players and try to run upwards. And you're wondering, I mean, what I sort of understand what his instincts had told him, but he was completely wrong in that moment, because I think he was trying to circle upwards and then get that long pass floated in by Trossard, and then he goes for a tap-in. But yet, in a natural sense, he should have run straight to try and ask for Leandro Trossard to play him that ball and possibly go ahead and score. But he did not do that. Very disappointingly. And of course, he's suffered all the forms of criticism over the course of the weekend, just as much as all the other players, including Miles Lewis-Skelly, that possibly cost Arsenal a potential comeback for a point, or even winning it by getting himself sent off, reducing his side to another 10 men. Now, this season, 5 red cards. That means Arsenal get to play so many minutes with a man less. That puts more pressure or more tension or a bigger workload on the rest of the players that do stay on the pitch. Eventually, this leads to fatigue, causes injuries that would have been avoided because of the workload that other players need to sustain. Anyways, do let me know what you think. For me, I think the Premier League title is as good as done. We can all say congratulations to Liverpool. They are winning the title, the Premier League title, in front of their fans or in the presence of their fans. Remember, the one they won in 2019-2020, it was in the absence of their fans due to COVID restrictions. And now they get to do it in front of their fans. So quite brilliant. Arne Slot will get all the praises he deserves for coming in his first season, replacing a manager in the caliber of Jurgen Klopp, and then guide Liverpool to a Premier League title. So quite incredible what they've managed to do. And then, of course, you look at, but allow us leave it at that. And then in the course of the midweek, we'll be having the Premier League fixtures that will be coming your way. That's on Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday. So do not miss out on that action. The reason as to why we do have those fixtures is because over the weekend, that's between first and second match, I think we'll be having engagements for teams in the FA Cup. So to try and fit the season schedule in shape, they have to bring some of these games to be played in midweek, especially understanding that clubs do not have UEFA Champions League or European competitions engagement during that course of the week. And of course, at the tail end of the month, that's coming next month in March, we'll be having the March international break. So here is the run of fixtures that will be coming your way in the course of the week. On Tuesday at 10:30 p.m. East African time, Brighton will be home against FC Bournemouth. Crystal Palace will entertain Aston Villa. Fulham will travel to Wolves. All games kicking off at 10:30 p.m. Chelsea at 11:15 p.m. will be up against Southampton. Chelsea should be returning back to winning ways following that 2-1 loss against Aston Villa late on Saturday. So they should be able to go ahead and beat up against Southampton and bounce back to winning ways. On Wednesday night, we'll have still at 10:30 p.m. Kickoff East African time. Brentford will host Everton, and then they will host an on from Everton. Manchester United will be up against Ipswich. If you do remember, Ruben Amorim's first game as Manchester United manager was up against Ipswich, and that ended, I think, in a 1-1 draw before they went on to beat up against Everton by 4-0. And then Nottingham Forest will be at home against Arsenal. That's still 10:30 p.m. While Tottenham Hotspurs will entertain Manchester City at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Remember, in the first leg at the Etihad Stadium, Tottenham put Man City to the sword with a 4-0 thumping. And then Liverpool will be up against Newcastle at Anfield. Very, very entertaining game to look forward to. That's at 11:15 as a kick-off time. And then on Thursday, that's the 27th of February, we'll have West Ham up against Leicester City at 11 p.m. I think West Ham will have all the motivation returning from that 1-0 away victory against Arsenal, while Leicester, who, I mean, their problems are much bigger than they anticipated them to be after the appointment of Ruud van Nistelrooy as their new manager, because things are not going his way, because they did suffer yet another defeat in the course of the weekend. So those are the fixtures that will be coming your way, and then Premier League action will return on Saturday 8th March and Sunday 9th March, as well as Monday Night Football for that weekend. That will be March day 28, because we are going into March day 27. That's in the course of the midweek. So do let me know your predictions. If we get time, we'll discuss some of these games a little further. But a couple of things coming on the channel. We'll be discussing all the players that will be leaving Manchester City at the end of the season, or the ones that we do expect will leave as Pep Guardiola embarks on a review of his squad, which he has already started with all those signings in January, including Omar Mamouche and all the others that they've signed, and then of course dating far back to the summer, the signing of Savinho, another youngster. So looking to rebuild his squad with a group of new players and a combination of youngsters and that kind of thing. But Kevin De Bruyne is one of those. Kyle Walker is one of those. Ilkay Gundogan is one of those. Possibly Ederson Morales and a few others that we will discuss. So that episode, we should find time to cover that in another episode, and then we'll be coming with an interview with another Manchester United fan in Frank Kantambi. We'll be discussing all matters of Premier League football and any other things that may follow within a line. And then the expectation is that we'll get other interviews in line. So if you do want to have an engagement with us in a sit down for an interview, do not hesitate to reach out. in the comment section, and I'll get back to you and we see how we get that done. Otherwise, allow me leave it at that for now. Stay blessed, and I'll see you next time. Have a wonderful rest of the week.